Right to go? 3 years? Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first act at the main stage at NEURUM Creek Festival 2021! I think we are all a bit pleased to come to a festival. Don't forget that there is a pandemic out there, and keep yourselves nice and safe, but enjoy yourselves because this could be a golden opportunity, as we all know. So we're going to start this morning's entertainment with a very well-known act. They have asked me to tell you that their combined ages come to 202. No other act has ever asked me to use that in the introduction, so I had to. They are very popular. They did include Helen. They're a very popular act on Australia all over. You've heard them on the radio and they've been played consistently on that show for years. And Bob is a fine writer of Australian material, particularly Queensland material, and you'll hear lots of stories that resonate with our own lives. He's a great songwriter, and this is a great band to showcase those songs. They are, both Bob and Laurel are very theatrical, and they're playing with their long-time collaborator Helen ROE, and they have 2 new songs in this set, and one of them, NEURUM Creek, one of them is a world premiere. So would you please make welcome the GOODWILLS!
Thank you very much for that lovely introduction, Nicole. We didn't have to pay her that much, so that was
No, she's hereafter known as Winsome Nicole.
So just for change, instead of starting with a song, we thought we'd start with a poem.
By that well-known writer, Anne Mon. Geez, that went down, didn't it? By the sluggish river glider lived a wicked redback spider. He was just about as mean as he could be. And the place that he was camped in was a Rusty Jones's jam tin in a paddock near the showgrounds at Moree. Nearby him lay a shearer snoozing. He'd been on beer and boozing all through the night and all the previous day, and the rooking of the rookers and noise of showground spruikers failed to wake him from the trance in which he lay. And a crafty-looking spieler with a dainty little shealer came by collecting wood to make a fire. Said the spieler, he's a boozer, and he's going to be a loser if he isn't. You can christen me a liar. Keep knit, honey, while I fan the mug for money, and we'll have some luxuries for tea. But she answered,
Don't be silly. You go back and boil the billy. You can safely leave the mug to little me. So she circled, that dozing shearer. So she circled ever nearer to that, dozing shearer? With his pockets bulging, fast asleep and snug. But she didn't see the spider that was ringing round beside her, for her mind was on the money and the mug. The spider sighted dinner. He'd been daily growing thinner. He'd been fasting and was hollow as an urn. When she spied the bulging pocket, he darted like a rocket and bit the spieler's shealer on the stern. Ah! Ah!
the shealer started squealing most convincingly, and in her clothes she was unpeeling. That's enough.
Not very many of them, though.
To hear her cries would make you feel forlorn. One hand the bite was pressing while the other was undressing, and she reached the camp the way that she was born.
I was born with a lot of clothes on.
The shearer woke pale and haggard, and back to town he staggered, where he caught the train and gave the booze a rest. And he'll never know the spider that just dropped on the floor. It saved him 60 smokers of the best. Thank you. Oh, that was smooth.
That was flawless. Can we please thank Mel for allowing us to borrow him to be the drunken swag?
What are you doing in my bedroom?
Thanks, Mel.
Is Helen there?
I'm not in this one.
Can you pass that
Alright.
Our assistant's going to pass our billy around, which has pictures on it of famous billies, so you can amuse yourselves trying to figure out who's who. And you can put stuff in it, you know, like toothpicks and plectrums and used tissues and face masks, whatever you wish, or nothing.
Then you can pick all the billies on it.
This is a song that I wrote when it was supposedly to celebrate turning 70. And I called it 10. I know there's already a song called 10, but this is nothing like it. It's a biblical term for 70, score is 20 years, so you do the math.
Well, anybody our age already knows that, but apparently young people don't necessarily know that.
Can I get a wee bit less guitar in the fold there? Thanks. Three score and 10, do you remember when that was our lifespan, or somewhere in between? 60 years and then 10 more, some beat the actuarial score, a few received a telegram from the Queen.
10, I'm feeling overwhelmed again by that list of urgent chores that we must do.
Clean the gutters, trim the hedge, clear out the shed. I'd
Rather drive off in the caravan with you.
3 score and 10, before we say amen, there must be more interesting things to do.
Let's rent a chateau in Loire.
Well, I didn't mean that far. The MP muster's just 9 months away.
60 years and then 10 more, you're still acting like we're poor, still saving for that rainy, rainy day. Well, that rainy day is here, and if we run short, never fear, they're hiring older folk down at the IGA. I'm supposed to play my kazoo here, but I don't know where it is.
3 score and 10, and I've still got a yen to spend Sunday mornings cuddled up with you.
60 years and then 10 more, you're still my paramour, though you hog the doona, pull the sheets askew.
3 score and 10, and lost my hearing aids again.
That's probably where you left your wallet and your phone. Hand me down the Scrabble set, though you haven't won one yet. It's no fun playing on your own. 3 score and 10, yes we do it all again. Those 3 score years and 10. Hopefully the act will get a bit more professional now that Helen's on the stage.
Just welcome Helen over to the stage. We're going to do a song that's... this is a song written in 1958 by Boodle O'Brien, which might not mean anything to you, but you know the song. It's a tribute to Don Everly, who died last month, so the No More Everly Brothers, alas. They inspired us to make harmonies. And I don't think there was ever anybody any better at it than those two.
Well, they were a great inspiration on people like Simon and Garfunkel, I know. The Beach Boys.
And I don't know if you know this, but at one stage Warren Zevon was their musical arranger and toured around with the Everly Brothers and did all sorts of magic things with pianos and fiddles, and if you know who Warren Zevon is.
That crazy brother.
Dream, 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 trouble is, gee whiz, I'm dreaming my life away. I need you so that I could die. I love you so, and that is why whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream, 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 dream. I can make you mine, taste your lips of wine anytime, night or day. Only trouble is, gee whiz, I'm dreaming my life away. I need you so that I could die. I love you so, and that is why whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream, 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 dream. Thanks, Don and Phil. I'll never get you done.
Could someone do me a favour? Our video camera's just up there in the middle, but I didn't turn it on. Can somebody who knows what they're doing, thank you for that. Well done. You just press the red button and it should show a little red dot on the screen.
Bless you, Dennis.
You mean that?
Well, that's a good thing because it'll miss all the cock-ups, so hopefully. Well, this is actually a song that Bob wrote. Well, I guess I could almost say that we both wrote it because I did have some input into this one for a
You
change.
certainly helped me write this one. It sat in the drawer for 3 years.
But we've often do a fair bit of travelling. I guess we've been confined to Queensland lately, but that's not such a problem. Last time we drove out west, we've been through this little town a couple of times. A little town called NEURUM, which is on the way to not anywhere really. I suppose it's on the way to Charleville? Yeah, more or less. It's a tiny little place with a new pub, thanks to the local community, and an interesting outdoor museum that's got a replica of a tin hut, the sort of tin huts that they used to make during the Depression and live in these terribly hot little boxes because there was not much other choice. So the song arose, it's called, not surprisingly, Kerosene Tin Hut. Dad built a hut from kerosene tins. Mom said he's suffering for his sins. He lined the walls with kangaroo skins when we lived through the Great Depression. Mom and Dad says it's all, but I don't feel depressed. In my big sister's clothes, I feel well dressed. Mom says Jesus loves us, we are the blessed, living through the Great Depression. The family of four in a kerosene tin hut. The wind whistles through even with the door shut. Hot when it's hot, freezing when it's not. Curled up with my sister in a canvas cot. There's rabbit stew cooking on an open fire. When Dad got down, he'd say,
Things are dire.
and some days we sang with the Tin Town Choir to help us through the Great Depression. Now we've got neighbors, there's a garden too. We share one tap and an outdoor loo. Made more huts out of kerosene tins, living through the Great Depression. The Tin Town kids are teased at school. Mom said ignore them, they're ignorant and cruel. Education will be a useful tool at the end of the Great Depression. The fallout was our hero, he kept our spirits high. We had a Zach each way at gear speed, called it do or die. The day Carlin hit 300, you could hear the city roar. Mom called it bread and circuses, but it thrilled us to the core. Lots to do, things Mom said all came true. You can do anything if you set yourself to it. Ignore adversity, work right through it. You're more than there's a hut made of kerosene tins, like the one Dad built for his sins. It stands to remind us in the times we're in, we're stuck together through the Great Depression. A family of four, a kerosene tin hut. The wind whistles through even with the door shut. Hot when it's hot, freezing when it's not. Curled up with my sister on a canvas cot. Rabbit stew cooking on an open fire. When Dad got down he'd say,
things are dire.
And some days we sang with the Tin Town Choir to help us through the Great Depression. And some days we sang with the Tin Town Choir to help us through the Great Depression. Keeping with a bit of an Aussie theme, it's a song that Bob wrote. I think it just sort of came to him one day. Is that not, or did you have to work on this one?
No, I actually did have a dream.
You did have a dream.
I have a strange dream.
Right.
I dreamt the other day that our dog caught a magpie in its mouth. He's a staffy, right? And I said, drop it, and he dropped it, and it went fluff, fluff, and flew away. So that was a nice dream, wasn't it?
Sort of.
We now live actually almost not quite on the Condamine, but pretty close to it. This song references the Condamine. As you probably know, we've been through a bit of a drought. When we moved up to work, it was hot and smoky and bushfires, and I think I thought to myself, what have I done? However, it has since rained, and it's a very pleasant, very pretty place with lots of roses and flowers, and the Condamine is now flowing quite nicely.
And friendly people.
Yes.
Oh, great, Pete.
Yeah, good place.
This is called The Last Waterhole. It's the title track of an album we got up there on the counter.
Is there any left?
And he brought 4.
Oh, there are only 2 left.
On the edge of the new eastern desert, where cattle once did wander, a swaggy lays his pack down by the road. He'll wait a long time for a ride out there, lips burn dry by the salty air, on the plains where the Condamine River flows. On the plains where the Condamine River flows. Black by the wind and sun, he carries a knife and an empty gun. His only book, The Theory of Control, left his mark on a solitary tree, a survivor and a refugee. He's a traveling man with no caravan, searching for the last waterhole. He was searching for the last waterhole. They say there's life in the new eastern desert, past the shipping wrecks and flotsam from the great tsunami of 2043. There's spinifex grass among the dunes, survivors of the last typhoon. In August he found a eucalyptus tree on the plains where the Condamine River flows. Skin burned black by the wind and sun, carries a knife and an empty gun. His only book, the theory of control. Left his mark on a solitary tree, survivor and a refugee. He's a traveling man with no caravan, searching for the last waterhole. He was searching for the last waterhole. Dreams of a new eastern desert where cattle once did wander fade as he lays his pack down by the road. Breathing hard, awake in a sweat, relieved to find it hasn't happened yet. On the plains where the Condamine River flows. On the plains where the Condamine River flows. Burned black bubbles on the plains where the Condamine River flows. On the plains where the Condamine River flows.
As Nicole promised, this is the coming up is the what did she call it? The world premiere.
That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, this is a song about Gough Whitlam, an opinionated politician who became Prime Minister in the 1970s, first half of the 70s. He introduced hundreds of new laws, including groundbreaking social policies. Just mentioning a few here I couldn't fit into the song. Among the other changes was the introduction of no-fault divorce and a single parent's pension, which allowed many people to leave unhappy marriages and start over. Just short-sighted as hell I am. Not everybody agreed with Gough's modern ideas. There was a huge outcry in 1973 when he spent $1.3 million on a modernist painting by Jackson Pollock. The monarchists were not impressed when he dumped God Save the Queen in favour of Advance Australia Fair. It's probably reasonable to say that people who thought Waltz and Matilda should be the anthem weren't happy either. He also stood accused of corrupting the youth of the day when launching FM radio, including the country's first rock station, which was then known as Double J. If you're 45 or younger, you probably won't know any of this unless you studied law or politics at university, or if your parents or grandparents were lefties. This is called When Whitlam Took His Turn at the Wheel. There's a chorus.
Easy.
It's easy chorus, yeah. If we get it right, it'll be an easy chorus. We were studying to be something, living hand to mouth. Jasmine won a scholarship, said it wouldn't feed a mouse. We all lived together in a grotty student house. When Whitlam took his turn at the wheel, he said, here's a free education, be sure to do your best. And he put family law and equal pay for women to the test. Put paid to conscription, all those young men feeling blessed. When Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. When Whitlam took his turn at the wheel, when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. Tried his best to give us all a better deal when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. Then he made it easier for wives to leave their men, introduced free health care with one stroke of the pen, took us out of Vietnam and brought in legal aid when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. He launched the National Gallery, the finest in the land, ended capital punishment with one imperious command, started work on land rights when Gorinzi took a stand, when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. Whitlam was the sum of many parts, the first PM to lavish money on the arts. It's appropriate to say that when he launched 2JJ, You're So Vain was in the chart. He scrapped imperial honours, a republic in his sights, encouraged public protest, gave school leavers voting rights, helped women out of the shadows to reclaim the night when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. Of course he wasn't perfect. Inflation spun out of control, the oil crisis, a recession, millions on the dole. Ministers misled and the loans affair took its toll when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. When Whitlam took his turn at the wheel, when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. Tried his best to give us all a better deal when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. Whitlam opened many doors and some have since been closed, set so many benchmarks before he was deposed. The first PM to visit China, today nobody knows when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. Then Fraser took the helm, 8 long years at Whitlam's chair. Howard tore up Goff's legacy, left the poor to their despair. All the while the rich got richer, it simply wasn't fair after Whitlam had his turn at the wheel. When Whitlam took his turn at the wheel, when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. Tried his best to give us all a better deal when Whitlam took his turn at the wheel.
And everybody,
When Whitlam took his turn at the wheel. Whitlam took his turn at the wheel.
on ya, Goff.
Fitting tribute to a great man.
Now, just in case you're wondering, the infamous painting in the National Gallery called Blue Poles, Goff had to personally sign off on that because they had to pay more than $1 million for it. So he said, yeah, I'll make that public because I want people to know what a far-thinking fellow I was. And in 2018, it was insured for, she's turning page, 380 million. 360 million, I beg your pardon.
What, $20,000?
As it's probably probably fairly obvious from me and not so obvious from Bob, we're both immigrants. Helen is a dinky-die Aussie though.
Oh yes, but absolute mongrel breed. It's crossbreeds. Like Bob is pure Scots.
Yeah, we were all born somewhere else, or came from somewhere else, long distance.
Bob is a Scot via New Zealand. I'm a Canadian via Canada. But I'm actually an Aussie because I've got the piece of paper to prove it.
She's actually a white Russian, but you'd never know that, would you?
That's the other bit.
Anyway, my parents, my family immigrated to New Zealand when I was 6. Sucks, yes. So I've sort of just been reminiscing about, I've got a smallpox scar on my arm, you see. You just get in the shower and you never notice it and take it for granted, but in this environment, I've been thinking about that a fair bit.
Spartan in England years after the war. prospects were poor. No better in Scotland or Ireland too. Uncle Jim emigrated, we joined the queue. As life on the prairies or in old Sydney town, Dunedin was mentioned with a worrying frown. 9 families, 1 bathroom, it was not hard to choose, except for the day they told their parents adieu. When the Rangatiki, Rangatani, Rangatata sailed upon the sea, they carried troops in the war, then took migrants to the colonies. The Commonwealth of Nations welcomed them with open arms. They brought teachers and tradesmen and labourers to work the farms.
My dad said they'll take us if we're breathing or warm. There was ice in the windows, it was a terrible storm. He had 1 small piece of paper to say who we were. Paid 5 English pounds for the seagoing fare. We all got vaccinations and the smallpox scars. Stayed with Auntie in London, watched the changing of the guard. She drove us to Tilbury on a drizzly day. With sad music playing, we sailed away.
When the Rangatiki, Rangatani, Rangatata sailed upon the sea, they carried troops in the war, then took migrants to the colony. The Commonwealth of Nations welcomed them with open arms. They brought teachers and tradesmen and labourers to work the farms. People in the new land helped to put us at RE. They made fun of our accents, but no one called us refugees. But we sought asylum in our modest Anglo-Saxon way. Now 1 in 4 is born somewhere else, so they say. There are pictures of her children hanging on the wall, wearing academic gowns, standing proud and tall. Some have been to England, some have been to France. One moved to Manitoba, a refugee romance. Sometimes with her family gathered all around, she thinks of what we got for those 5 English pounds. We work and we save and we give what we can to those seeking refuge from their troubled land. We work and we save and we give what we can to refugees from Sri Lanka and Afghanistan.
From Burma, Iraq, Iran and Afghanistan.
When the Rangatiki, Rangatani, Rangatata sailed upon the sea, when the Rangatiki, Rangatani, Rangatata sailed upon the sea, when the Rangatiki, Rangatani, Rangatata sailed upon the sea. Thank you very much.
Sort of in the, there's a postscript to that in the late 70s. My dad went on a tour and he ended up in Hong Kong and he saw that ship, the Rangatiki, being towed off to the scrapyards in 1977. It just happened to be there. I kind of half remember that. My dad thought it was Christmas because he got 6 weeks paid holidays and a cup of tea in bed in the mornings. Because he was a baker, so he never got a good night's sleep, usually.
Would like to sing one of our oldies. This is the title track to our 2nd CD, I think. First? Yeah, it's pretty old anyhow.
Yeah, it's called Big Country Town. It visages how I kind of imagined the city to be in the early 70s when I first came here. And I'd come from a little cow town in New Zealand, so it was the biggest place I'd ever lived in. So I was overawed, and I mentioned this to a few Brisbaneites at the time. Who said, "No, mate, it's just a big country town." And I couldn't believe anyone had ever written a song about it, so I did. And yes. Anybody here remember Giardinetto's? It might still be there, is it, in the valley? Italian
It's smaller
restaurant.
than it used to be.
When we came here, I was here early 70s, and she's saying don't talk too much. I've told this story. See, there were only 3 ethnic restaurants in Brisbane at the time, and they were all Italian joints. Mama Luigi's, Lucky's and Giardinetto.
Awesome.
Meet me at Giardinetto in the valley, just take the trolley bus to town. I'll be finished work by 7, plenty of sorrows to be drowned. Sally took the bus to Melbourne, don't think I'll see her face again. She was stormy like the weather in that big country town. Down at the creek the midweek gallops, where they sort the real men from the boys. When cheap pots of beer cost $1, and there wasn't so much noise. Down on Queen Street on a Sunday, there's just 2 sailors and a girl. They can find a place to buy a bottle, there'd be much more to enjoy. I used to like the city better 40, 50 years ago. We'd sit outside on the veranda, drinking rum and talking slow. When the purple jacaranda dropped their petals on the ground, that's the time that I remember that big country town. I caught the ferry back to Main Street. There's fellas sleeping in the park beneath the blanket of the summer. They're safe and warm out in the dark. Back then when no one locked their windows, we'd sometimes sleep with nothing on. The mozzie coils burned down at midnight, somewhere in old Blue Hill above. And now the 20th century's over, I not to hanker for the past, when every suburb looked like Chanticleer, but we knew it wouldn't last. The trolley buses went to scrapyard, they say vandals burned the grandstand down, but stores still stripped the jacarandas in that big country town. I used to like the city better 40, 50 years ago. We'd sit outside on the veranda, drinking rum and talking slow. When the purple jacarandas dropped their petals on the ground, that's the time that I remember that big country town.
It's an oldie, but it's a goodie.
I forgot, because I wrote that song now more than 20 years ago, the original line was 34 years ago, and we've updated it to 40, 50, but I missed it both times. We're going to finish off now with a medley of travel songs that we put together one time for a workshop we were doing on immigration. And they just all slotted together so nicely because they're in the same key, basically. Which is a prerequisite for medleys. Yeah, I'm supposed to give us a plug. We have CDs up the back there.
We mentioned them before.
$15, $10 or $5, and
The modern thing, you know, the MP3,
that's
whatever
right.
it is.
There's a link. We now have a page on Bandcamp, which if you download music, you'd be familiar with that. Just look up the GOODWILLS Bandcamp and you'll find it. And there's a few new songs there, including the Kerosene Tin Hut, which hasn't been recorded on the album.
And I'd particularly like to thank Penny Davis, who's sort of over there with our bloody dog. Who's been looking after him the whole time. Oh, thank you, Penny. I love you to bits.
When people, like last night, you might have heard a dog bark every time somebody applauded, and that was him. I plead guilty as charged.
And when he wasn't barking, he was moaning.
Right, we better get through this then.
Anyway, sing along if you like, and it's pretty tricky to sing to because every time you think you know that song, it changes. Anyway, keep you awake. Keep you awake on a hot Saturday morning. All my bags are packed, I'm ready to go. I'm standing here outside your door. I hate to wake you up to say goodbye, but the dawn is breaking, it's early morn. The taxi's waiting, he's blown his horn. Already I'm so lonesome I could ride. 4 strong winds that blow lonely, 7 seas that run high. All these things that don't change, come what may. But the good times are all gone, and I'm bound for moving on. I'll look for you if I'm ever back this way. If you miss the train I'm on, then you'll know that I am gone. You can hear the whistle blow 100 miles. 100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles, 100 miles. You can hear the whistle blow 100 miles. So kiss me and smile for me. Tell me that you'll wait for me. Hold me like you'll never let me go. 'Cause I'm leaving on a jet plane. Don't know when I'll be back again. Oh Lord, I hate to go. I hate to go.
Thank you.
We're the GOODWILLS. Thanks for listening. And thanks to the sound guys. They're very sound men indeed.
Top job, lads. Thank you, Dave. And thank you, the inimitable Mark Smith.
Can we hear it one more time for the GOODWILLS? Brilliant start to a morning of entertainment. The entertainment's going to continue quite soon. We're going to do a little setup. This is the time to get yourself a cuppa, have a little walk around, and make sure that if you haven't got a mask with you, you go